After a business trip, my husband not only lost his memory but also had another wife. My parents-in-law took great care of the mistress, allowing her to wear my pajamas and sleep in my bed, and even threw a pregnancy test stick in my face. After finally seeing my husband, he left me a divorce agreement. I signed my name in a hurry. He lost his memory, so he forgot that he was the one I raised. After landing, I learned that my husband had an accident while climbing the mountain. Not only did he break a leg, but he also hit his head. Although he has been discharged from the hospital, the doctor said that he is likely to have lost his memory. After rushing home, I realized something was wrong. The villa was specially designed by a designer. The simple Chinese design was greatly modified. The golden and magnificent four-piece sofa set, the tacky crystal ornaments, and most importantly, my pet dog Leoshi didn't come out to greet me right away. Just when I wanted to call my husband, I heard a noise in the bedroom. I held my breath and quietly approached the bedroom. Finally, I heard Leo's whimpering. The next moment, the groaning sound from inside made my blood freeze. I didn't know the woman, but I was very familiar with the man. It was my husband Jonathan, whom I had been married to for several years. The bedroom door was not closed. Who else could it be but Jonathan, who was lying on the bed with one leg raised to enjoy it? When I heard that they were going to kill my Leo and eat him, I couldn't bear it anymore and kicked the bedroom door open. The two people in the room shuddered all over, especially Jonathan. After seeing me, his face froze, and then he frowned unhappily. My face completely sank when I heard Jonathan's curse. From the time I met him until now, Jonathan had always been gentle and considerate in front of men, not to mention yelling at me. In the past, he would only act cute and clingy in front of me and compete for Leo's favor. Could it be that amnesia can make a person become a completely different person? Before I could say anything, the woman on the bed actually started moving on Jonathan again and looked back at me provocatively. She said she didn't like being looked at, but she moved more happily than anyone else. I am very sure that before this accident, Jonathan was always sticking to me, whether at home or at the company. Although I don't know where this woman came from the moment Jonathan was dirty, he was dirty. Chastity is the best dowry for a man, and I don't want a dirty man. As soon as I said this, my hair was suddenly pulled hard from behind. Before I could see the person clearly, I was slapped hard on the face. Before I could react, I was hit twice in succession. I couldn't help but gasp. Leo was tied to the side, with his neck tied around. Seeing that I was being bullied, he began to struggle violently and kept growling at the person behind me. An old man rushed out quickly and kicked Leo madly. Leo was a white Shih Tzu. The little one had been with me for many years, but it was already old and could not withstand such a kick. It soon curled up on the ground and could only whimper softly. At this time, I could also see clearly that the old man was Jonathan's father, my father-in-law. I wanted to rush over, but my mother-in-law behind me clamped my arm tightly, and I couldn't move. When my father-in-law heard me say this, he became even more excited. He looked at Leo with red eyes. Jonathan said, "You spend tens of thousands on this beast every month. You are so nice to it, but why don't you show me how filial you are to your parents-in-law? Damn, it's a waste of money to keep it. It's better to kill it and eat it. I want to see if this dog that cost hundreds of thousands tastes any different." My mother-in-law used all her strength in her hands, and her 10 fingers seemed to dig into my skin, but I didn't care about the pain. Leo was in a very bad condition and was foaming at the mouth. I had to see a doctor immediately. I didn't lie. Between Jonathan and me, he is the one who is supported by me. The villa is mine, and the company is also mine. I was with Jonathan at the beginning because he was handsome, knew when to advance and retreat, and knew how to serve people. Our family is not short of money, and the company will be inherited by me, so marrying a man is nothing. Of course, Jonathan is a man, and he also has to save face. So when he told his parents-in-law that he was the general manager of the company, I didn't refute him. He didn't want others to see him doing housework and cooking, so there was usually no one else in the villa. But at this moment, I regretted it. If there was a housekeeper, bodyguard, or auntie, I wouldn't be so isolated and helpless. I was clearly telling the truth, but the 4 people present laughed. The parents-in-law spoke one by one, but Jonathan got up from the bed slowly and didn't say a word for me. Even though he had lost his memory, the wedding photo was hanging on the head of the bed. He knew I was his wife, but he let me be humiliated like this. It was not difficult to tell from the attitude of the parents-in-law how Jonathan usually treated me in front of them. Paha white strip with a smell was thrown fiercely at my face. When it landed on the ground, there were 2 bright stripes on it. Pregnancy test stick. I felt a little doubtful. This woman's belly was still flat. Even if she was pregnant, it wouldn't be more than 3 months. But the company had a big business in the past 3 months, and I was almost busy nonstop. Jonathan also followed me back and forth for several months. Everyone said that he was a good husband. Where did Jonathan have the time to cheat and make someone pregnant? Either this pregnancy test stick is fake, or this woman is not pregnant at all. No matter how I look at it, I feel that Jonathan has something fishy on his head. But I don't want to remind him, and I don't want to waste time. I just want to take Leo to see a doctor as soon as possible, and then deal with these later. Jonathan said, taking out a divorce agreement from the bedside and throwing it in front of me. The turn of events stunned me. When we got married, Jonathan and I signed a prenuptial agreement. He couldn't take my house and shares. Because he was good-looking and obedient, I added a clause that if we divorced, I would give him $20 million in compensation. But now, Jonathan drafted the divorce agreement himself and gave up the $20 million. I lowered my eyes to hide the mockery in them. It seems that God doesn't want to help the wicked. I signed my name quickly. One of the copies was snatched away by Diana impatiently. The more she looked at it, the happier she became. She kissed Jonathan hard on the face. Jonathan also smiled and touched her belly lovingly. Diana pulled his hand and shook it gently. The strap slipped off her shoulder. I don't care if Diana wants to take advantage of Jonathan's amnesia to stamp the document and put a hat on him. I only care about Leo. Jonathan shook his head and let his parents catch me. Leo's body began to twitch slightly, and his eyelids couldn't help drooping, but he still tried to hold his head up. He stuck out his tongue and licked my hand. My parents-in-law don't know how to drive. Jonathan broke a leg, so I have to be the only one driving. The steering wheel is in my hands. The first thing I would do is drive to the veterinary emergency hospital. But as soon as I got in the car, Jonathan snatched Leo away and pressed my hand hard on the steering wheel. I gritted my teeth and stared at Jonathan. His face didn't change at all, but now it just made me feel sick and want to vomit. Jonathan put his hand on Leo's neck and said in a cold tone, "It's all my fault. I didn't know people well. If anything really happened to Leo, I would definitely kill them." I stepped on the accelerator within the legal speed while waking up my phone to call my assistant, asking her to wait for me at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau immediately. Diana said sourly, but when she thought that she would soon be able to hook up with a rich man, she didn't want to get involved, so she just continued to say a few words on the side. I looked at her calmly in the rearview mirror. Today, I got to know Jonathan again. He is cruel and ruthless and can do anything. When Jonathan regains his memory, I wonder what this legal couple with a marriage certificate will do. As soon as we got out of the car, the assistant Kara was already waiting there. She immediately came forward to pick up Leo. She knew the hospital that Leo had been going to and knew how to deal with it. I felt relieved to leave it to her. Diana clung to Jonathan again in a weak and boneless manner. She pouted and blinked her eyes. Jonathan was also dissatisfied with Kara's ignoring his affairs. Fortunately, Diana's reaction pleased him very much. The sense of something wrong that had finally risen in my heart disappeared without a trace. I immediately stood in front of Kara, not wanting to argue with this difficult family anymore. Jonathan looked at me with disgust. He patted Diana and motioned her to push him in. The documents and contracts are all there, so it won't be a problem to deal with them. The divorce papers between Jonathan and me were still warm when I got them. Diana enthusiastically pulled Jonathan to the marriage window on the other side. After receiving Kara's report, I was no longer in a hurry and watched the two of them with interest. Only when the small red book fell into Diana's hands did my heart fall back into place. Everyone should have their own retribution, shouldn't they? I won't be partial. One has ulterior motives, and the other is extremely stupid. They are a perfect match. After saying that, I turned around and drove towards the villa. We're divorced, so it's time to throw away the garbage. I felt sick when I thought of Jonathan and Diana having sex on the bed I bought. Then I recalled the decorations in the living room and decided to sell the villa directly. The villa area is quite far from the Civil Affairs Bureau. When the four of them took a taxi to get there, I had already asked people to move out all their things from the villa. The mother-in-law was so angry that she jumped to her feet and her eyes locked on me. "This is my son's villa. It's clearly written in the divorce agreement that you are not allowed to get close to my son's things. I knew you couldn't bear to part with the wealth and glory my son earned. Do you want to be arrested and go to jail?" The father-in-law was even more exaggerated. He had a bad temper. He raised his fist and rushed over, punching and kicking one of the guys. "Right? I won't beat you to death." The young man was punched several times before he reacted, but he didn't do anything. Instead, his colleagues stepped forward and held my father-in-law down. They knew that the villa was mine, and I was the one who placed the order, so they all looked at me. This company is very professional. They have cameras throughout their work, which is both a guarantee to the employer and a protection for their own safety. They are not surprised that such things happen. There are two possible outcomes. The first is that the customer pays to settle the matter privately, covering the medical expenses and mental damages of the injured employee. The second is that the person has nothing to do with the customer, in which case the company's legal team will protect their rights and interests. Of course, I chose the latter. The eyes of several young men lit up, and they immediately understood the situation, straightened their backs, and were about to call the police. Whether it's hitting me or the staff, my father-in-law always looks fearless. But now that he had kicked the steel plate and heard they were going to call the police, his legs went limp with fear, though he still kept his neck stiff. Jonathan was not panicked at all. After she lost her memory, Diana had been with him. From her mouth, he learned that she was the general manager of Joe's company and owned a luxury villa. He also saw the chat records with her parents and confirmed this. In Jonathan's eyes, having money and power can settle 99% of the things in the world. For example, beating people up is nothing, just give them some money and they will be grateful to you, right? Of course, the staff would not just say it casually. They immediately contacted the company's legal department to communicate with Jonathan, and the final price was set at $50,000. After resolving this matter, Jonathan looked at me again. I laughed out loud on the spot, found the proof in my phone, and put it in front of him. After seeing the content on the phone clearly, the four people's faces were full of shock, especially Diana, whose eyes were full of suspicion and uneasiness. She and Jonathan had met by accident. Jonathan was the best man she could get in touch with, so even though she knew that Jonathan had a wife, she still chose to strike up a conversation and added his contact information. Diana could feel that Jonathan was very satisfied with her figure and appearance during the chat, but for some reason, it always stayed in the ambiguous stage, and they had never even met privately. However, Diana was not discouraged and kept in touch with Jonathan by asking about his well-being. It was not until 2 days ago that Jonathan suddenly asked her to go hiking and specifically told her that his wife was on a business trip. Adults understood what he meant. What made her even more delighted was that Jonathan accidentally slipped and hit his head, which led to his amnesia, giving her an opportunity. Diana was, of course, moved by such a young, promising, and considerate man for his wife, and immediately decided to tell Jonathan that she was his lover and was pregnant. In just 2 days, she won over Jonathan's parents. No, she couldn't afford to buy this villa by herself in her lifetime. Jessica must have relied on a man. Thinking of this, Diana was jealous and wanted to snatch this house and put it in her own name. Jonathan quickly accepted this statement and looked at me as if I were a maggot. It seemed that he had not woken up from his dream. He was right about one thing: time is precious and cannot be spent on garbage. I immediately took out my mobile phone and contacted the security guards in the villa area to directly drive the 4 people out. No matter how they shouted, cried, and made a fuss, the security guards were unmoved. Of course, the cleaning boy also went out with them. We agreed that we must get the compensation if we want it. After dealing with the matter of the villa, I took Leo's A-Bay to the pet hospital. Leo is a very fragile puppy. With such a serious injury, he must be inseparable from his A-Bay. The doctor said that Leo's organs were damaged to a certain extent. Fortunately, he was sent to the hospital in time and was not in danger of life, but he still needed to stay in the hospital for observation. I reached out and touched Leo's little head with heartache and put his abe next to him. A trace of hatred flashed through my heart. I would never let those two old guys go. If it weren't for them, Leo would not suffer at all. After Jonathan was kicked out of the villa, he realized something very serious, that he was really stupid to give Jessica a villa, and now he couldn't get in. What's more serious is that he found this house by looking at the delivery address in his mobile phone. In addition to this house, he didn't know what other properties he had in his name. Diana was kicked out, but she didn't feel uncomfortable. In her opinion, Jessica's approach was to push men away. Even if Jonathan recovered his memory one day, he would not like this woman who embarrassed him. Men still need gentle and considerate women, just like me. Diana's words had just resolved the embarrassment of the family when they were caught up by the cleaning company. The embarrassing thing was that Jonathan didn't have $50,000 on his WeChat and Alipay, so he could only take out the black card on him. However, the cleaning company didn't bring a POS machine. Diana once again gently and considerately paid for the current trouble herself. She still knew which was more important between $50,000 and the black card. This beautiful imagination was finally shattered when they checked into the hotel. Jonathan's parents asked for the only 2 presidential suites in one go and made many requests. They simply treated the hotel service staff as maids and eunuchs in ancient times. Seeing these well-dressed young people bowing down in front of them, Jonathan's parents couldn't help but feel proud. But after choosing the room and making the request, the card couldn't be swiped. Jonathan was so anxious that he was sweating. A bad feeling enveloped his heart. Before, Jessica said that she spent all her own money and that the villa was also hers. He didn't think so, but now the card couldn't be swiped. Could it be that everything he had depended on Jessica? Jonathan asked himself, if all this belonged to Jessica, would he be humble in front of him? The answer was yes. After knowing his answer, he became even more panicked. He had just divorced Jessica. No, impossible, absolutely impossible. The staff at the front desk of the hotel had a smile on their faces, but they had cursed the 4 people in front of them hundreds of times in their hearts. They were doing their job honestly, but these people came and ordered them around like slaves. If they were really big customers, it would be fine, but there would definitely be no problem with their machines. And the man in front of him looked guilty, no matter how he looked at him. The front desk staff immediately suppressed a smile and said with a hint of sarcasm, "Sir, do you still need to check in for these 2 presidential suites?" When Jonathan's father saw that his son was being ridiculed like this, he immediately started cursing. The noisy sound attracted the attention of everyone in and out of the hotel. Jonathan immediately blushed from head to toe, just like a cooked shrimp. He felt very deeply that his father made him very embarrassed at this moment. What was even more embarrassing was that the front desk staff was neither humble nor arrogant, but called the security guard at the door, as if they would be asked to leave if they continued to make noise. Jonathan immediately grabbed his parents and walked out of the hotel quickly. It was already very late at this time. They could only find a hotel with a suitable price to stay temporarily and talk about it when they went to the company tomorrow. Of course, the money was paid by Diana. After 2 consecutive bleedings, Diana also fell into deep suspicion. Enemies are particularly jealous when they meet. I got up early to go to the company, but I didn't expect to bump into Jonathan's family. It was just one night. They completely lost their arrogance yesterday. After getting the divorce certificate yesterday, I stopped all the supplementary cards from Jonathan. He dared to come to the company today. I guess he hasn't recovered his memory yet. Jonathan's face didn't look good when he saw me. However, before he could continue to speak harshly, Assistant Chen had already seen me. I nodded and ignored Jonathan. She was about to enter the company with Kara. I rolled my eyes in an indecent manner. Just like me that day, Jonathan's face turned pale in an instant, his pupils suddenly dilated, and his only remaining good leg was shaking nonstop. Only then did I realize that there are actually people in this world who are as stupid as pigs. Who says that women must take their father's last name?
But his words really angered me.
Thinking of the grievance I suffered yesterday, I stepped forward and grabbed Jonathan by the collar. "Pa pa pa." I gave him a dozen slaps in the face. "This morning your mouth stinks. I am the top executive of the company. Who do I need to hook up with? Even you are a gigolo. Without me, you are not worthy of joining the company." When Jonathan's father and mother saw Jonathan being beaten by me, They ignored everything for a moment and rushed towards me. But now is not like yesterday. In the villa I am not alone. When the security guards at the door saw them starting to fight, they immediately surrounded us and protected Kara and me. There were only 4 of them in total. 2 old, 1 injured, and 1 who was scared silly. Facing these more than 10 strong security guards, they immediately sobered up, stopped swearing, and stopped hitting people. Even if they were stupid, they knew that if I were lying, Kara and the security guards would not be so stupid as to give up their jobs to cooperate with me. Then there is only one truth. After thinking about this clearly, Jonathan's parents became emotional again. I don't understand why every time they sent messages and called, the son said that he made hundreds of thousands a month and that he was the one supporting the family. Because Jonathan often bought them expensive gifts and transferred money to them, they really believed it and even boasted in the village that anyone with a problem could come to their son to solve it. This time he showed off from one end of the village to the other, saying that he was going to live a good life with his son. But the truth was that their son was a softie who was supported by a woman and lived off her. What was even more stupid was that their family drove the gold ingot away. Jonathan's face became paler and paler, and pain continued to come from his brain. At this moment, he remembered everything. What stupid thing had he done? All these years of hard work were in vain. Jonathan's tears flowed down, and he stretched out his hand to squeeze towards me. Do you believe me? Behind Jonathan, father and mother Jonathan couldn't stop regretting. If they had heard me say these words yesterday, they would have come to deal with me a long time ago. But now they dare not say a word. Instead, they look at me with flattering faces. There must be feelings. It would be fine if they didn't talk. As soon as they started talking, I thought of Leo's pitiful appearance. How could Jonathan still be capable? He now has a broken leg, no rich wife, and no job. It can be said that he has nothing. No, it can't be said that he has nothing. Also has a new wife, Diana. Jonathan quickly turned his head, his eyes bloodshot, and he wanted to pounce on her and bite Diana to death. Even with a broken leg, Jonathan still rushed towards Diana with strong hatred, swung his fist, and hit her hard. Jonathan's father and mother also rushed over to beat Diana. I frowned and asked someone to make a phone call directly. The 4 people were packed up and sent to the police station. Diana was not someone who could be easily bullied. It was said that she refused to reconcile after going to the police station and wanted to sue the 3 people for violence against her. However, Jonathan held their marriage certificate and used family disputes as an excuse to deal with everything. It was unknown how the 4 people reached an agreement, but in the end, they were still released from the police station. Diana wanted to be with a rich man but ended up meeting a gigolo. She did not enjoy the benefits, but instead had to pay a lot of money. During the fight that day, no one knew who pressed down on his leg. Now Jonathan was really disabled. Diana was naturally very dissatisfied with this marriage and insisted on getting a divorce. But Jonathan was not stupid. He brought his parents to live in Diana's house. He did not ask for a divorce, nor did he say he would not divorce. The next day, he ran downstairs of the company, holding a bouquet of flowers, begging me to forgive him. He worked from morning to night until I got off work, regardless of the wind and sun, for a whole week. Every day, Jonathan's parents took turns to accompany him, begging me for forgiveness, and the other one followed Diana. Wherever Diana went, he followed. But I know very well that Jonathan doesn't love me. He loves my money. In the past, it was because of our relationship and he was a clean man, so I could tolerate it. But now we have neither marriage nor feelings. Of course, I will never look back for such a man again. When the news of my divorce spread, many clean and young handsome guys in the company emerged. The coffee I like to drink, the desserts I like to eat, and the flowers I like were all sent to me in turn. What's more, these people are younger, more obedient, and more able to examine the situation. When I got in the car with a handsome guy, Jonathan went completely crazy. He ignored his injured leg and chased after my car. It's a pity that he couldn't catch up with my car, and he couldn't even catch up with the car exhaust. The day I picked Leo back from the pet hospital, looking at the apology message I received on my phone, I deleted and blocked it directly. I turned around and hugged Leo. From now on, no one will bully me and my dog anymore. Only happiness belongs to us.